Investigations into Donald Trump, his business, his cronies, and their cronies just got even longer. Citing people with knowledge of the matter, the New York Times reports that federal prosecutors in Brooklyn, that's different than the Southern District, have been investigating whether several Ukrainian officials helped orchestrate a wide-ranging plan to meddle in the 2020 presidential campaign, including using Rudy Giuliani to spread their misleading claims about President Biden and tilt the election in Donald Trump's favor. The investigation started in the last months of the Trump administration, and it is separate to the Manhattan federal criminal probe into Giuliani and Ukraine. The Times says Giuliani is not a subject of the Brooklyn investigation, but that prosecutors are focusing on at least one Ukrainian official, Andrei Derkach, who met with Giuliani in Ukraine in 2019. Ken Vogel is one of the New York Times reporters who broke the story of this previously unknown Brooklyn investigation. Betsy Woodruff-Swan of Politico has been covering Giuliani in Ukraine for years, and both join me now. Ken, let me start with you. What can you tell us about this investigation and why it's in the Eastern District and why it appears to be separate from the Southern District investigation into Giuliani himself?
Yeah, it's a bit of a puzzle as to why it's not being handled by the same prosecutors who have been investigating Giuliani, because, of course, there's so many overlaps and sort of entanglements between these two investigations, including the same cast of Ukrainian characters. The sort of central character of which is, as you pointed out, is this guy, Andrei Derkach, who the U.S. Treasury Department sanctioned, and in their announcement of the sanctions, branded him as an active Russian agent for more than a decade. And so what we think they're looking at here is, what we know that they're looking at is the effort of Derkach and some of his associates to sort of funnel disinformation into the political discourse in the run-up to the 2020 election, intended to damage Joe Biden and to help Donald Trump. What crimes may be in play and what statutes they may be potentially charged with, we don't necessarily know, but we can look to sort of recent past precedent and see that since Mueller, we've seen a number of charges, a number of Russians charged with election interference under statutes related to defrauding the United States government. That could be a guide. Also, there could potentially be a FARA liability for them if they were somehow conspiring with someone, potentially even Rudy Giuliani, to evade FARA. We know that the investigation of Rudy Giuliani is about FARA and evading the Foreign Agents Registration Act, potentially. Some of the folks with whom he worked may have potentially been a party to an effort to evade FARA, so that could be another potential criminal liability for these Ukrainians.
Yeah, I want to just emphasize something you said about Derkach. It was the U.S. Treasury in September of 2020, so this is under the Trump administration, putting sanctions on him and calling him an active Russian agent for over a decade. This is not like the Biden folks came in and, they cleaned house and said this. Like, this was in September 2020 under the Trump administration. And Betsy, one thought I had when I read the Times piece that Ken is one of the reporters on was like, yeah, I feel like I watched them do this in front of all of our faces. Like, tons of Ukrainians popping up all over the place for 2 years. I knew like 24 Ukrainian operatives' names I wouldn't have any reason to know, but for the fact they were clearly trying to interfere in American politics.
The United States government has done everything short of jumping up and down and lighting its hair on fire to say that Andrei Derkach is a Russian agent. Derkach literally went to KGB school in Moscow. Shortly before the 2020 election, the U.S. intelligence community did something which is kind of, or perhaps literally unprecedented. They put out a statement saying, hey, everyone, foreigners are trying to meddle in our election. And the only individual person who they named in that unprecedented statement was Andrei Derkach here. Right. Literally the only one. They said, hey, guys, this is the person that you need to be paying attention to. He's been very public facing. He's been very open about communicating with Americans and trying to influence the discourse here. I've messaged with Derkach multiple times over Telegram. He's very accessible and very focused on sending his message to Americans through the media and through other means. And what we see here, of course, in this case with Giuliani is that he made himself available. He had all sorts of things that he wanted the mayor to get through to Americans. And in this case, in real time, in a way that's very unusual, the U.S. government said, guess what, guys? this guy's a Russian agent. So it's not shocking. It's certainly newsworthy, but it's not at all shocking that the Justice Department would now be on the same page as the Treasury Department and the intelligence community, and Lord knows how many other alphabet soup U.S. agencies that have been watching this guy and saying, good Lord.
Ken, do you have a sense of how advanced things are in that Eastern District investigation?
Well, we know, in fact, Betsy has reported that Andrei Artemenko, a guy who helped set up Rudy Giuliani's meeting, another Ukrainian former parliamentarian who helped set up Rudy Giuliani's meeting in Kiev with Andrei Derkach, has been talking to the FBI. We also understand from other reporting that others who were sort of in this circle have talked to the FBI. I can reveal here something not in our story, that Andrei Teleshenko, another Andrei who was also involved with Rudy Giuliani in helping arrange this trip, has also talked to the FBI, though it's unclear if that was part of the investigation, the investigation into these Ukrainians. But certainly he fits into this category of Ukrainians who helped Rudy Giuliani gather information, dirt on the Bidens, helped him arrange this trip to Kiev and to Budapest, during which he met with Ukrainian prosecutors and with Derkach, and then was subsequently sanctioned. There are a number of folks who sort of fit this fact pattern, and while we can't say with precision which ones of them may be targets of the investigation or subjects of the investigation, we know, because we know, as Betsy pointed out, that the Treasury and the intelligence community was kind of ringing alarm bells about these guys and then subsequently sanctioned them, that this is the universe of folks who an investigation like this would logically look at.
Betsy, quickly here, Manhattan federal investigation. The judge has appointed a special master to sift through Giuliani's, the second time we've seen this because of Michael Cohen. That has sort of receded to the background a little bit because of the news about the Trump investigation, but that seems very active as well.
Yeah, no question. It's certainly something that is very important, an important priority for the Southern District of New York. That investigation seems to be moving full speed ahead. Of course, it appears that it was on ice over the window of time leading up to the 2020 U.S. election. Yeah. But now that that election is over, now that there's new leaders at the Justice Department, there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of Main Justice in the Southern District. We expect more on this front.